And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why KPIs are important to help your team succeed. Well, let me kick this video off by asking you, how many of you have been or have you been to a sports game where they didn't keep score? Of course not. It would be stupid. It would be the most stupid game you've ever been to. In fact, it was frustrating. I don't know how many of you have got little kids, but I remember when my kids first started playing soccer or any of those little kiddie games that, you know, when they try to introduce them to a sport, when they're under a certain age, they actually don't keep score. And it's very frustrating as an adult to watch that happen. So, you know, we're used to seeing a score being kept, so we know we can measure ourselves against the opposition and see how we're doing. Well, you know, I want to talk to you a little bit about why KPIs are important in your business and how it helps your team or your team of people in your business achieve what they need to achieve. Now, for those of you that don't know what KPI means, it is a little bit of jargon. It stands for Key Performance Indicator. Now, essentially KPI is the scoreboard. Okay, let's just call it the score. And in your business, you need to make sure your team is clear on a couple of things first. First of all, what direction on the field are you running? So what that means is, are you all clear on the goal and where the goal is and what you need to do to get there? Because too many businesses I see are just doing this, you know, this higgledy-piggledy. They just go in, they just do their thing for the day and then off they go. And in fact, they did a survey of a bunch of employees for different big businesses, and they said, you know, let's survey and see what their frustrations are. Now, what was interesting was the business owners or the managers said, I think the number one frustration is going to be they're not paid enough. Yeah, that was like about number 4 on the list. Number 1 was that it wasn't clear on whether they'd done a good job or not. So it was more about, did they have clear job descriptions and KPIs so they knew when they had achieved what they were supposed to achieve, rather than, you know, just coming in and doing my day's work and hoping for the best. So your team need to know what the score is and what score is expected. So it's about making sure that you as a manager or a business owner have got it clearly mapped out for your team what the vision is, what the direction we're running is, what are the rules of the game, and how are we going to get there. So KPIs are vitally important. Now, what sort of numbers do you want to track? And you don't want to get all you know, anal about it and be measuring things to the nth degree, because it just becomes too complicated. But there are some basic fundamental things you can measure. So for example, what about total sales? You know, especially for a sales team, how many new customers did we bring on? What was our conversion rate? What did we want to achieve on a daily basis? What's our break-even point? So all of these KPIs are vitally important, helping your team understand what it is they're chasing after, what is it they're heading towards. And really, if you want a team to win, they need to know the rules of the game, and they need to know what direction they've got to run on the field and how many tries they need to get, or how many points they need to score, because that's going to help them do a better job for you. So if you do run a team and you've got a team of people and they're not sure about what the objectives are for their role, and then now's the time for you to get crystal clear. So here's a good way to do it. Sit down and write down each position. Forget about the people. Don't worry about putting names against positions. Just write down each position on the field. No different to a sporting game. You know, you have right wing, left wing, front, full back, whatever you want to. These job descriptions are going to be descriptions in your business. So for example, you might have sales manager. That's a position. Don't worry about putting a name next to it. You might have administration. You might have recruitment. Now, you might have one person that fills more than one position, and that's okay. That's why I'm saying don't worry about the names. Just write out what the positions are. Then, underneath that position, start to write down what it is that role has to fulfill. So if it is the sales manager, what does that role have to do? Does it have to manage a sales team? Does it have to train salespeople? Does that position have to get sales? Does it have to look after a certain number of accounts? What does that role have to do? Then you go to another role, my recruitment role. So that recruiting person has to do X, Y, and Z. So you can start to map out exactly what each role is responsible for, and then you can set some KPIs. Look at each of the tasks and say, okay, if the task is to do this, X, how well does that task need to be carried out for us to say, yes, you've done a good job, or no, you suck and you need some help? You need to be able to define that. So when you sit down with your team, you can sit down and say, even if they've got to be given 2, 3, or 4 positions, you might hold 4 different roles yourself. But at least now you can measure yourself against the KPIs for each of those positions. And that's really a good starting position for getting yourself and your team clear of how to keep score in your business.